congratulations on your documentary, Gridlocked, on the tour with the Briggs.
Thank you, Gig.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's a fascinating documentary. So let me start with you, Kevin. What originated this idea for you to form this documentary?
The idea of the documentary came about when Joey told me that they were going on tour in 2015. I had been shooting a lot of music videos and behind the scenes stuff with the Briggs leading up to that point. And when he said he was going on the tour, they had been on a long hiatus, hadn't been playing shows. And I figured if I went along the tour and did a bunch of video recording, I would have enough footage from the tour and all the other stuff that I shot with them to put together a documentary.
So, Joey, how did you were convinced to be a part of this documentary? I mean, you know, it's understandable to video a tour, but you know, we're talking about making it into a film. Or was this something that you always wanted to be a part of?
Well, it was something. It was sort of a long time coming. I mean, we weren't really sure what the shape of it was going to be, but from even a few years back before that, Kevin was shooting some stuff in the studio with us when we were recording, and we had done some music videos together as well. And so there was always kind of an idea of this if we get some cool footage and stuff, that there could be something fun, some sort of fun film about this. And then the tour came up, and I was like, hey, you want to come along? It'd be cool to get some real fun footage of just the road stuff. And so he jumped on board with that. And then that kind of sealed the deal in terms of getting some really good footage and some really fun stuff to kind of be the centerpiece of the film. And you know, it was cool because I obviously had no idea what it was gonna wind up like. And so when we got to see it for the first time, it was really fun. It was like seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time too, because, you know, a lot of it is very just real stuff that happens on the road, and it's not necessarily memorable to you in the moment. And so watching it was like kind of watching a lot of stuff for the first time. And it was, so yeah, it was really fun. It was a really fun experience. And just as a viewer, I really enjoyed it.
I remember when they first started, they said, or Joey said, why don't you come along and do some photography? So I just felt like I kind of sprung it on them, that I like decided to just do a documentary on it.
Kevin, at which point that you finally figured out the narrative of the story? Did you figure it out during the editing process or during the tour itself?
Yeah, it was definitely during the editing process, but it actually kind of came together. It must have been a couple of years after the tour, because I had shot all this footage, and I was having trouble bringing myself around to editing it. So I wound up working with some other editors, and the other editors said, you really need to get some more interviews with the band members to kind of piece this together. So I tracked down Joey and like got him to sit down for an interview. And in that interview, we talked about more in-depth, you know, topics of how he felt about the music industry and his career. And I think that's really where the heart of it came from. When I had that interview with Joey, I was able to realize where the arc of the story was and where it all needed to go.
Joey, I guess one of the greatest thing about this documentary is a lot of people don't really understand this tour life. It's you know, it's sort of like, it's very grounded. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's rough. How do you actually describe it, and do you miss it?
I definitely miss it for sure. Yeah, I would describe it as you know, I mean, if you think about when you're traveling from one place to the next, like if you have a flight to wherever, New York, or going home for the holidays or something, and you kind of think of that lethargy that comes along with it, with traveling to, you know, with getting to an airport and going through TSA and getting on an airplane and the trains, planes, and automobiles of the whole experience. That's basically that added on to doing a show every night is kind of what it's like. So it does have, it's a lot of exhaustion and a lot of expending of energy, but it's, if you love it, that's great. Like for me, it's like I like all that. I like all the exhaustion and constant movement of things, and nothing kind of staying the same, and things constantly being a different surroundings. So I mean, if you're meant for that life, it's great, but it's definitely not something that most people would find appealing, I would say, to do day in and day out, because it is taxing on the body, it's taxing on the mind, and it's taxing on relationships, because you're married basically to a group of guys, whereas like you're living with these people, you see them every moment of your life, you're in a very, very close quarters with a group of people, so it does have challenges in that respect in terms of inner relationships between people.
Kevin, this documentary is great is because it's like you're literally a fly on the wall looking at their lives. But on the other hand, you did actually spend 10 grueling days on this tour back in 2015. Could you tell us about enduring this too, along with the guys?
It was definitely a novel experience for me, because I hadn't been on a tour with a band before. This is my first one. I wouldn't call it grueling, though. I really enjoyed the process. I think, like Joey, I also really like to be on the road, to be working, and to like feel productive, and to get around and see new things. So it was a lot of fun for me. And that was definitely the hope, was to give people a fly on the wall experience and perspective into a band that's on tour, and kind of see the reality behind it, especially one that's as professional as the Briggs. So yeah, for me, it was a lot of fun. It was a great adventure, and a 10-day tour is also apparently the very short one for a band like this. So it wasn't really that much to endure. Maybe if it were a lot longer, it would have been a little bit harder. But yeah, overall, I'd say it was just a fun experience.
Yeah, 6 to 8 week tour, by week 4 or 5, you're about ready to kill each other. But I will, and on that point though, I will say it really was a fly on the wall kind of situation. There were so many times where I had no idea that we were being filmed. So you do lose sight of it. Hopefully. I mean, if you don't, then obviously the person's not really doing their job. If you constantly are aware that there's a camera in your corner over there, but it was really well. It was very well put. Created, where the atmosphere was very real, and the relationships and the communication and interactions were all very natural and actual.
Kevin, how much footage did you manage to garner during this entire process?
That's a good question. I'd like to know that too.
I put together all the footage from the tour onto a timeline on my editor, and I think all the other stuff that I had was over the years of shooting behind the scenes stuff, the rehearsals and music video stuff, and I think it came out to like be over 26 hours of footage. So that's probably why I was having trouble like diving into it and becoming an editor on a documentary for the first time. I'd been always editing things that were narratives, that had scripts, that were all like stuff that I imagined prior in my head, and I knew the storyline and the arc and what I wanted to see. So those were a lot easier for me to jump into than a documentary. It was a lot.
So this must have been very, very difficult to pare down, from 26 hours to just to something just over an hour. I guess you'll have to send out more footage, the rest of the footage that Joey haven't seen to him. Eventually.
Yeah. I should probably put on some deleted scenes on YouTube or something.
Yeah, put out like specifically the really incriminating stuff. Just put a reel together of the stuff we really should have never said on camera. especially Derek. Derek is always concerned about that. Derek, our bass player, he just talks constantly, and he doesn't really think in terms of those thoughts. So it would be great to get a reel of Derek's most heinous things he's said over the years.
Joey, and one of the things that's great about this documentary is that you brought in the family life aspect. That's one of the things that we actually learn about this. But
Yeah.
For a lot of people, when it comes to family, they like to not have that shown on film. Why were you comfortable having this story told?
Well, I mean, I feel comfortable with Kevin. First of all, I've known him for a long time, and then in terms of that, I mean, it is such a big part of my life, so it would be kind of hard to really fully separate it. I feel like I actually, to some degree, feel like I could even do better in terms of integrating the two things, but also, it also has to do with the actual family members. Like my daughter, for instance, is a really big music fan. She loves to go to shows and things. So her kind of her wanting to be a part of the whole thing has also been part of the integration, because she's always like, anytime I'm going to a show, she always wants to come. So many times it's 21 plus and she can't, but whenever it's an all ages show, I'm always happy to have my family there. I'm always happy for them to be part of the experience, because they love to see that. They love to be able to experience it. And I like for them to be there too. It's like, they are such a big part of my life. So it really does make sense. And also, I mean, I suppose it really depends. Certain people, I think, maybe there's a reluctance to being a family man in the first place. Maybe even they don't feel that their environment is family friendly or whatever. So, I mean, I feel pretty lucky in the sense that my environment, in terms of my musical environment, is relatively family friendly in a way. Obviously there's drinking and things like that going on, but it's nothing that would be, there's nothing illicit going on that I would feel really uncomfortable with them seeing. So, and it's just a really good group of people that we have around us. So it integrates pretty well. So
how is family life and life after touring now?
I'd say that my family has definitely taken more of a forefront in the last many years, because when you have young kids, it's really hard to be gone on for long periods of time, which I learned along the way. There were a few times when I was gone long enough where I was pretty uncomfortable with missing things and whatnot. But now they are getting older to some degree, where there can be a little bit more of a balance, and it doesn't have to be so much of a tug of war, because when they get older, they're a lot more self-efficient, and I can be gone for longer periods of time without there being that missing of every little thing. So now I think, and I have so many projects going right now musically and things that it definitely, the dynamic is already shifting kind of more back towards being more active on the road and things like that. So it's all just a tug of war of constantly just figuring out what works as a balance of family and music. But so far I'd say in the last 10 years or so, family has won that battle in terms of taking most of my time. But we're all into the, we're a team as a family, and we definitely are on the same page and on the same team when it comes to career and things.
Most excellent. Well, I found this this documentary real, raw, and truthful. So, gentlemen, Kevin, Joey, hey, thank you very much for speaking to us about your documentary, and Joey, keep on making more music, man.
Thank you. I will definitely do that.
They've got a show coming up.
Well, I'm gonna have to check it out. Look that up. So,
yeah, check it out.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gig.
Thank you.